Hello and welcome to Daily Maverick Live Journalism in 2026. I know there have been other webinars. You probably watched one just before this, but these are the only ones that matter. I'm joined by the imaginations behind Imagineers.Ai, Chris Barker and RJ van Spaandonk, who have been running a series of masterclasses to help you better wrangle AI. So for me, it seems like ROI will be the definitive acronym for 2026, but it's no longer enough for project potential savings. But now stakeholders in AI spend specifically expect returns on the talent and infrastructure investments. So this morning I was on the Boston Consulting Group AI radar study called, and they were talking about their findings from the annual survey of CEOs, and that reveals a significant shift in AI decision-making leadership. Nearly 75% of CEOs now identify as a primary decision maker for their AI in their organizations, which is double the percentage from the previous year. The CEO is often the most optimistic person in the room regarding AI. I'm sure many of you have been in a meeting where the CEO was pushing something. But confidence across the business has dropped significantly from 62% to 48% this year as you move away from the C-suite towards non-tech executives. Given that 50% of CEOs now believe that their jobs are on the line if AI investments do not pay off, according to the recent BCG radar, how can leaders move from merely buying tools to connecting the management dots required for true organizational impact? I'm sure RJ and Chris, you guys have thoughts about this.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Lindsey, and a warm welcome to everyone that has joined us on this preview of our masterclass. Yes, one of the recommendations that we always give to CEOs is that they shouldn't focus on a selection of a tool at this stage in time. They need to focus on equipping their staff with the requisite skills to master AI. That's the most important thing. And secondly, the objective of your organization should not be to replace people with AI, but rather to augment them with AI. Because first of all, the technology is not yet good enough to replace human beings. But also, if that is the objective, you will find that many of your staff members are going to be very unhappy with that objective and start blocking some of your initiatives. And I think the third major recommendation that we give CEOs is that they shouldn't lock themselves into a particular technology from a single vendor. It's much better at this stage to give your team members the skills, let them figure out how AI can be used successfully in their job, in their team, and thus for the rest of the organization before you start looking at the technology platforms that you should choose. Because the skills that we impart on people can actually be used across all platforms. So skill acquisition is actually the most important objective, I think, for many organizations in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I wrote a story yesterday on the site about AI skills. There's something like 45,000 vacancies in AI-related jobs and data science jobs in South Africa, which is crazy. There's a lot of programs and CEOs of these programs, organizations that are saying that the universities aren't preparing the candidates well enough. So in your masterclass, you've obviously been covering like a lot of these things to help people transition from like being AI naysayers into being AI adopters and AI users, and for it to add value. Is there anything you want to share with everybody as a preview to your masterclass?
I think what people should do is not listen too much to all the doom stories that are out there. There's two particular strands here. One is that everyone will lose their job. And secondly, that AI will basically destroy humanity. Both views are not ones that we share. We think that like any other major technology shift has appeared in the past, like the computer, the internet, the internal combustion engine, from the industrial revolution forward, is something that people need to embrace.
No, definitely.
And that's what we're here to show your readers.
Yeah. our viewers currently. This is a visual medium, RJ. And talking about visuals, you have a little bit of a slideshow, a deck, a presentation.
Yes, what we would like to do today is show people what this masterclass entails, why you should enroll, what you will walk away with when you have attended the two-day seminar. So allow me to share the presentation. In the meantime, I'll ask my colleague Chris Barker to introduce himself so that the viewers also know who else is on this call.
Hi folks, Chris
Chris.
Barker. I started off my career in Unilever, moved into McKinsey Consulting, and then spent the next 20 odd years in South Africa building businesses before joining Deloitte as a director. Left Deloitte when this AI thing came about, and I looked at it and said, this is going to change consulting considerably, and we need to be out there staying on the bleeding edge of it. And that's what RJ and I have now been doing for the last 2.5 years full time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Some people may know me from the job that I held for a very long time, and that was representing Apple in South Africa. But like Chris, when generative AI was launched into the public domain, we saw the opportunity and started working with organizations around equipping them with the right skills to take advantage of this technology. And the organizations that we have established is called Imagineers. And what we do is very simply, we run an AI native organization. We share with people what we learn. We create what is missing in the marketplace, applications or courses, and then we guide you towards through your journey of discovery in how you can use AI in your day-to-day life and in your organization. So that's what our organization does. And we have a critical philosophy, and that is akin to people knowing what IQ is, which is an innate capability to solve complex problems, which is something that you're born with. But since the 60s, we've also looked at emotional intelligence. So if you want to get something done from colleagues or from your team or from your organization, you need to put yourself into the shoes of other people. You really need to be good and empathetic to work with other people. And the same philosophy applies to intelligence. It is a skill that you can acquire, how to actually interact with artificial intelligence to your benefit. And our entire masterclass is based on this particular philosophy. The problem that we face increasingly is that with every year when this technology advances, it will become more difficult and more expensive to catch up to what the models today can accomplish. So we always encourage people is to get on the bandwagon right now, start learning, start playing, start experimenting before the gap becomes too big in terms of time, effort, and investment. We're using artificial intelligence extensively in this presentation. There are some images that have faults in them, so we have included them in the presentation as Easter eggs. And just to make sure that our viewers pay detailed attention to what we have to say, I encourage them to find the Easter eggs in this presentation. So the masterclass that we run with Daily Maverick, which we have run a couple of times at the end of last year, has a particular structure. But the most important thing to remember is that we are showing what AI can do. We're not sitting you down, holding your hand over the keyboard, because the beauty of AI is once you realize what AI can do and accomplish for you, you can ask AI to help you make that happen. So the most important part of the masterclass is to actually show you a wide variety of applications and benefits from using AI in your work. And the masterclass breaks out in 2 sessions, 2 days. On the first day, we start in the morning with the fundamentals of AI and how you interact with it. And that is prompting, prompt engineering, and context engineering. And that is a fundamental skill that everyone needs to obtain in order to get the most out of AI. So that's the morning session. In the afternoon, we immediately go into the creation and manipulation of documents. And what you need to think of here is creating proposals, creating and reviewing contracts, creating entire human resources, recruitment processes, and all the documents that come with it. And the same goes for procurement. So everything is just based on real life business processes that take place in an organization. The second day, we start the morning with how AI can be used for advanced research, for data analysis and artifact creation. And what we mean by artifact creation is that we are no longer confined to having a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation, but we can use AI to create novel ways of sharing information with an audience. So that could be infographics, it could be small websites. And what you will find out is that that is a lot more engaging than the traditional way in which we share information through email or PowerPoint or Excel, etc. And then the afternoon, we close off with a hot topic currently in AI, and that is how to create and use agents and agentic workflows. Both days are capped off with a session whereby we help people draft their personal AI implementation plan over a 90-day period. So when you walk away, you actually walk away with a plan on how to actually start using it in your organization and keep growing. So that's the structure of the masterclass. We are completely platform agnostic and vendor independent. So the tools that we teach people how to use are ChatGPT from OpenAI, it's Claude from Anthropic, Gemini from Google, and Grok from xAI. And those are the most widely used tools in the marketplace. And with those tools, you can accomplish most tasks in your organization. We're confident that 90% of the work that you do today as a white collar worker can be done with these tools. And the objective is to turn you from an AI curious person, which you are as a viewer, otherwise you wouldn't have participated in this webinar, to turn you from an AI curious person into an AI capable practitioner. So after 2 days, you have the confidence, you have the skills to start working with AI. And the prerequisite for participating in this course is simply that you know how to use a computer. And through the last sessions that we've done, we very quickly figured out that at the end of 2 days, everyone in the masterclass will leave the masterclass at the same level of competency, because you don't need an extensive IT background to start working with this. So what we do during the course is we help you develop symbiotic intelligence, is that skill on how to interact with AI effectively. We also help you build confidence that you can use this tool to your benefit. Probably the most important skill set that we impart on you is how you effectively prompt in different situations. And prompting is basically instructing an AI tool what it needs to do, how it should do it, and what the output of the work should be. And we're spending roughly 30 to 40% of the entire masterclass on actually mastering this particular skill. And we do that in a real business context. So the participants in the masterclass can choose from 4 hypothetical case studies of startups in South Africa, and what they are we'll show you later. And then finally, what you're left with is a framework to start your 90-day personal AI implementation plan. Now, why would you participate in this masterclass? Very simply because it's a general purpose technology. And whenever we've seen in history from the steam engine onwards, when a general purpose technology comes along, it creates massive change in society, which trickles down into the workforce. And it is then a set of skills that organizations demand of its workers that they master. We've seen the same with computers back in the 80s and the 90s of the last century. Computers made their entry into the workforce. At the end of the 90s, beginning of 2000s, people had to start to become proficient in the internet. And we think going forward, people need to master AI. Not only do we think that, but we saw an article in the Financial Times of yesterday where McKinsey now tests its future employees, how well they can interact with AI via some chatbot exercises. And this is quite interesting because Chris and myself have been working with a number of educational institutes over the last 2 years. And they all started out asking us how we could make sure that students and learners would not use AI in an education environment. And now you all of a sudden see that employers, future employers, actually demand that students coming out of tertiary education have the skills to effectively operate AI. And I think that will trickle down into the rest of the industry and other types of industries. So it's a very good reason for anyone to start equipping themselves with AI skills and know how to use it effectively. So what this masterclass will do is help you gain a competitive advantage as a person in your organization, as a team, and hopefully as an entire organization. Because yes, jobs will be lost, but jobs will be lost by organizations and teams and individuals that do not embrace AI. That's the reality. So you want to become indispensable, meaning that you at all points in time need to be the one that controls the AI, and you shouldn't give AI the opportunity to give over your job, which means that you give the groundwork of your tasks to AI to complete, but you yourself elevate yourself to a higher level of cognition in your task environment and do a lot more valuable work for your organization than you could do before, because now you have time available to do so. A second point that's important as a reason why you should attend this masterclass and start your journey of discovery is that you want to become the leader in your organization, potentially even in your industry, that drives the adoption of AI. And that is a very good place to be because the individuals that have this skill set can command a premium in the marketplace. Lindsey, as you were alluding to before, there's a shortage of 45,000 people in the market that know how to deal with AI. So that's a very good economic reason to equip yourself with the skills. But even if you don't necessarily want to take a leadership role in your organization or in your industry or in society, what we're finding as well is that if people start using AI in their job, they can increase their output by between 40 and 70% without working much harder. And again, that sets you apart, and that gives cause to employers starting to pay more for individuals that create higher levels of output in the organization. And then finally, which is for Chris and myself, a very interesting reason to be involved in this domain, is that in the next decade, AI will be the most important technology that shapes society and the business world. And we would like to be part of the people that shape that future. And we hope that many of the viewers want to accompany us on our journey. Now, I want to share with you some of the reviews that we received out of the first two master classes, and they were overwhelmingly positive. And I'll leave it to you to read on the screen what people have been saying about this course. So the case studies that we will be using and that people can pick from is ourselves. What we do is we build our masterclass on a hypothetical company in Johannesburg, which offers authentic cultural experiences for international visitors. But for the participants, they can choose from a whiskey investment organization in Johannesburg. We also have a case study around the company that makes furniture from recycled materials. We have an organization that supplies goods at a wholesale level to spaza shops in townships. And finally, we have a biometric nutrition wellness spa organization also in Johannesburg. So the case studies that we do are applicable to a real world business environment and the challenges that people face on a day-to-day basis. And these seem to us very, very fun case studies to work with. Here's another recommendation from someone that attended the masterclass. Now, to give you some examples of what are the types of case studies, use cases, and exercises that we will be covering. First of all, we're spending, as said, at least 30-40% of the time for you how to instruct an AI. So we give you like a vague idea, and then you need to turn that into a very, very effective prompt whereby the LLM will not hallucinate, which means it comes up with nonsense, and where it presents you with information that you require in a format that is most suitable for the task at hand. So that is on prompting skills, and that will be covered throughout the 2 days. Another important exercise is to work on your personal implementation plan. You don't do that in isolation. You present it to some of the other people in the masterclass, give each other feedback. And what we already start seeing is that some of the masterclass participants hook up with each other and start sharing best practices or ask for advice on how to deal with particular problems. Because the masterclass also is a very good environment in which you can create a group of like-minded people that want to work together across different organizations on learning on how to use AI even further after the end of this masterclass. Another exercise that we do is the end-to-end procurement of a particular good of service, because there are many cost savings to be obtained from strategic sourcing. But in the past, it was a complex process and probably too laborious for a small organization to embark on. But with AI today, we can make procurement a lot more efficient, effective, and drive down the cost of the goods and services that we purchase on behalf of an organization. Another exercise is around data analysis. Again, in the past, many people used a spreadsheet to do some rudimentary analysis, but now with AI, what we can do, even though you're not an expert in statistical analysis or machine learning, is you can use these tools to do a lot more advanced analysis on the data of your organization and get a lot better actionable insights on how to run your company. Another exercise that we share is on doing profile assessments on the internet. You could look at yourself, see how positive or negative you're being displayed on the internet, which is good from a marketing perspective. It will give you a plan on how to improve your presence on the internet in a positive way. But we also look at the flip side. We know that a lot of cyber attackers and other criminals are using the information that's known about you on the internet to potentially attack you in various different ways. So we also show what the risks are of your online profile and how you can mediate that. Now, you can also apply this to partners that you want to work with, employees that you intend to hire, and clients that you want to work with. So it's also a very, very practical tool that you can use in your organization. A financial model. Many organizations need a financial model, but not everyone is trained in accounting or is a financial Excel modeling expert. But we're showing and teaching people how you can use tools, specifically the ones from Claude, to build financial models that can drive decision making. And then another application, very applicable in South Africa, is many organizations have questions around labor law. What can I do with my staff? What can I not do? What are the rights of staff members, etc.? And instead of reaching out to an external law firm, or worse, not doing anything at all, we teach our participants on how to create an AI assistant that's an expert in South African labor law, such that when you have a question, you can actually ask this labor law how to answer the question and how to proceed from there. And then finally, a very interesting one. Many of the participants have children that go to school, and what you are asked to do is to create an app for your child whereby we upload elements of the South African curriculum, whereby you can create a tool that helps your child master the particular subject in the curriculum, and then through interactive Q&A can assess how well your child masters the subject, and if not sufficiently, suggest on what follow-up information needs to be ingested by your child. So these are some of the very, very practical applications that we're running our participants through, and a lot more. Creating business plans, using AI to do self-service technical support on your computers, to create health and safety plan outlines. There's many, many things that an organization has to do in order to comply with rules and regulations that fall outside your primary job every day, that often don't get done, but that with AI you can do very effectively and very quickly. So it's a very practical, hands-on masterclass where people bring their own laptop and actually start working with us on solving some of these problems with AI. And as you can see from another review, people are really, really excited and think it's a lot of fun to go through this masterclass. Now, what are the outcomes? What will we leave you with at the end of these 2 days? You will know how to work with the leading platforms: OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, and Grok. And that in and by itself is already an extremely good starting point that sets you apart from many other people in the industry and society. We will give you the toolkit to become very effective and very successful at prompting, both at the prompt crafting level, that's the basic level, as the advanced prompt and context engineering. I mean, that is the critical thread throughout the entire masterclass. We will have taught you how to create various different documents, presentations, contracts, business plans, Excel spreadsheets, etc. You can immediately apply that in your day-to-day job. We will have equipped you with skills to do advanced research and data analysis on your own information and publicly available information. And we also give you enough tools and skills to create artifacts, whether they be entire websites or infographics or other even small applications that you can run on a website or in your computer. And finally, we close off the masterclass with the toolkit to create your own AI assistants and agents and agentic workflows. So when you walk away, finally, sorry, and then all of the external resources that we think are very insightful and helpful for you to even further equip yourself with knowledge and expertise, we've created this website that you can access and where you find many other valuable sources of very practical information. So we leave behind a very practical toolkit to start working with AI in your organization. And this quote we love: "Brilliant frontier work, I cannot suggest any improvements." Despite that, we have improved the masterclass and brought it up to date with the latest in AI. And it will be probably 30–40% of what we start presenting next week is already new compared to the sessions that we did in December. That's how fast this industry is actually moving. So we hope that you can join us. The sessions in Johannesburg for next week are sold out, but we're making additional sessions available throughout the year. Cape Town, we have one spot left on the 28th and the 29th of January, but we're opening new dates in February as well. And we still have some availability in Durban. So we did it, Lindsey, in half an hour. So let's open up. Let's open the floor up.
I like that final quote where you were like, yeah, no, 100% recommend no notes. But why is Daily Maverick partnering with us? Because we believe that there is a value to be unlocked through being able to level the playing field across a lot of industries with AI. There's a lot of chatter in the in the chat around Lou is asking about like the lazy versus efficient distinction, where one of the testimonials did mention using AI to improve performance rather than just being lazy. How does the masterclass distinguish between the two?
Let me speak to one, Lindsey. So Lou, it's actually a really good question. One of the big things we find, and we obviously interact with a hell of a lot of people out there in business, especially a lot of ex-consultants. And what you find is that everybody who gets their hands on AI asks the quick, easy one-line question. And for example, give me a strategy for my little business, and maybe they tell the prompt about the business. And what they get back is always incredibly impressive. You look at the first blush and you go, wow, this thing can talk, it's human, it's sentient, it understands. Oh my God, I didn't think of half those things. You're always blown away. But a business person, someone who actually has to do it, and most of you people out there I know in this audience are entrepreneurs, because in the last 6 courses we've had a tremendous amount of entrepreneurs coming in. What we find is that when you actually look at that plan, that guidance you're being given, it's not actually truly practical. It didn't understand empowerment. It didn't understand the complexity of tenders. It didn't understand. It tells you to go and do marketing in ways that you've no idea how to do marketing. And when you really get into it, you realize what you've got is what we call AI slop. And that's the lazy approach. And it's what everybody does. And the problem is you get this information dumped back, and it's long and hard to read. And you tend to not go any further. And what we really emphasize on the course is good versus bad. When you ask an AI properly and you push it, it doesn't give you the 16-year-old schoolgirl answer that the providers are trying to give to everyone because they're trying to conserve tokens, because 97% of you are not paying for ChatGPT. So it's giving simple answers that don't cost them very much. We help you engineer prompts that force it to give business grade answers. We're ex-McKinsey and Mitchell Madison consultants. We know if the answer is not 95% good, then it's 0% good. Throw it out the window, don't use it. And it's about not being lazy, but pushing it to the next level to get a truly usable output. And we show you what that is and why it happens and why it goes wrong. Big emphasis.
Yeah. Now that is quite important, that 95% thing, because I was writing an article. So how I use AI in my personal workflow is like I use Notebook LM, and I put all of my research and my notes and interview transcripts, everything into that for a specific story. It's Google's kind of note building container that uses like Gemini AI to summarize things. And then I usually, when I start writing, I will ask that specific questions. And then I foolishly ask for like a briefing on a situation that was occurring that I was noticing, like in my notes. And it was one of those 95% where there was just a smidge of hallucination. I don't really call it hallucination. It was just there was information that was probably in my head and context in my head that I had not shared with the AI. And then it got something a little bit wrong. And that like made me very gun shy now of AI. So I actually started 2026 and I was like, look, I'm not going to rely on this anymore. I'm going to activate my human brain and my talents again, and then just be a lot more thorough. It's probably doubled the time it takes to produce stories now. But like for me, I need that tool to be 100% right every single time. And I don't know why Notebook LM failed like that this time. Roshan is asking about, she spends most of her week chasing people and summarizing meetings. You guys promise that workflows does not mean, does you guys promise workflows? Does that mean that she can actually set up a system that does the chasing, or is AI just teaching her how to write better emails?
No. That's something that we did 2.5 years ago, using AI to write better emails. Indeed, the objective of this masterclass is to equip you with the skills to build workflows for the mundane elements of your task. So this is exactly what we mean. You know, the question that you ask is, I spend 60% of my week chasing people, means that you feel that you could use your time much better than doing exactly that. So yes, you will leave the masterclass with the skills to create such workflows for yourself.
Okay. Catherine is asking about maybe remote options for the masterclass for people with disabilities.
We
Let me
have
deal with
not.
that, RJ. I already answered Catherine, then deleted my answer so that I could answer to everyone. Catherine, I think this is a nice idea. Look, there is a lot of merit in being there in person, make no mistake. But if there are people who can't do that, and it truly, truly is impractical for them to get out to a venue in the center of Joburg or Cape Town or Durban, then I think it would be the right thing for us to do, to host an online session. But I think we would be a little bit precious about ensuring it's people who absolutely can't be there in person, because there will be, it will be a slightly degraded experience, I'm afraid. But yeah, I think this is a responsible thing to do. And I think we'd be prepared to put in the extra effort to figure out how to make that work. So look out for that in
Nice.
the Daily Maverick, I think.
Lebo, I can speak to this directly about AI's ability to summarize large reports. The only method is to actually know what you're looking for in those summaries. I found that having a working knowledge, or at least a detailed knowledge of the subject or topic or whatever the report is about, is step number one. And then you just can fact check the AI when it comes out with it. But Chris has a different
Sorry,
opinion.
there's that's so Lindsay, we're all about getting AI to take away the difficult work. And you know what? Reading through
Yeah.
reports and looking for issues is bloody difficult work. It's like something most execs fear, do late at night and irritate their spouses with. What we do, RJ and I, and I've been guiding a lot of people on doing this, is you take the output from one AI and you give it to another. So I would take an output from Grok, hand it over to Claude, and tell Claude to fact check it. I would tell Gemini to fact check OpenAI, and you will be mind blown at how much it finds that you weren't going to pick up 10 o'clock at night with your eyes half closed and just irritated with the fact that this subordinate has given you something that is giving you so much damn work to do. So that's what we do. We hand them off between each other, and it's absolutely remarkable how you can strip out every single possible risk of hallucinations that way.
Yeah, so like this idea of the productivity premium. So we spending all this money on, like, businesses are investing like 2 to 4% of revenue into AI adoption. Is the productivity premium, well, it's going to make you super productive, enough to justify the spend, or must business leaders look for other value indicators?
Shall I speak to that, RJ?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I think, so first of all, I'd challenge people, the idea that people are spending a lot of money. I think we're always surprised when we see reports in South Africa saying adoption is mind-blowing, everyone's using it. And then we and I'm not going to name company names here in a public forum, but we go to the big proper companies, the guys you really think would be acing this stuff. And we're always just utterly appalled at how little they're doing and achieving. So I don't think there is a tremendous amount of spend. What is going on is there is spend in training, and training is expensive. You can't train a reasonable white-collar workforce at under $6,000 a head, and you're going to repeat that every 6 months to a year because this thing's moving so darn fast. But I think there's a couple of data points we have. So as ex-consultants, and I used to run very large teams back in Deloitte when we did the full vaccination rollout across the country. I led a team of 40 people on that. And I used to sit down in the early days of AI, not even what we have today, and say, if I'd taken that team of 20 people and got rid of half of them, and I'd done their job by myself at night using AI, I not only would have had a better result than that team could deliver, but it would have been easier on me than managing those 10 people was. And when I see that kind of productivity improvement, it's extremely hard to say it's not there. I just also find for myself, there's so many pieces of work that come across my desk that in the old days, I would have said, okay, that's a week's work. Let me assign 2 people, get this team onto it, charge $1 million. And I'm now looking at it within half a day, I can have it done by myself. And that's multiples of productivity. That's sort of 3 people for a week versus me by myself for half a day. That's a mind-blowing multiple. It really is. But I think the other thing is people are measuring a little bit too much on something like on the ROI. And there are so many different ways this impacts the business. Of course, there's a revenue uplift that you're looking for in every time. And there's also a cost to serve reduction. So everyone's looking for those too. But there are other things. Quality improvements is the biggest. I find that the output I create, now that I know not to allow AI slop and how to check for it and how to guard against it, the output I produce is good. And it's stuff that I would have had to have been on peak performance, woken up fresh that morning to have delivered as a consultant, now comes out first time round every time after a couple of checks. So quality is a biggie. Cycle time reduction, that I can get something out in half a day. Getting out in half a day is not about the man hours saved. It's about the fact that that proposal you were going for, you set aside and said, damn, we can't do it in time. It's due in 2 days. It's not going to happen. Well, get me involved and it'll happen. Or get AI involved and it'll happen. And then risk reduction is obviously a big part of it. But there's two things that people don't think about enough. One is the customer outcomes. Your customers are happier and better when they're being well served. And the bigger one is employee outcomes. 90% of everybody's job, including the jobs I've had in the past, are crap. There is stuff we don't like doing, and we have to do it to get to the fun 10% part and the paycheck. Now, that's what AI is going to do first and foremost. It's taking out the drudgery from our jobs and leaving us with the fun stuff. And I've absolutely, in the last couple of years, moved to a place where waking in the morning is exciting because every day is going to be something fun and thrilling and great to push out. And the stuff that I don't like doing, I'm not going to be doing it. And I think people underestimate the employee impact of that. That's how you attract and retain good talent.
Adrian was asking about app creation and coding, whether you guys touch on it. But I think there's a larger conversation to be had, especially with like the transition to the agentic age. With over half of AI investment going towards agentic AI, so that's building AI bots that can actually complete tasks like within the business. How does the masterclass prepare professionals to transition from simple prompting to orchestrating these complex multi-step workflows, which I imagine is kind of what Adrian is alluding to? You can tell me if I'm wrong in the chat.
So let me answer that. So yes, indeed, we will touch on coding. You actually are going to make an app, the one for tutoring children. But secondly, if you look at agentic workflows, a workflow is basically a combination of chained agents that execute prompts. So prompting is still the most critical skill that you need to acquire, because you cannot build an agentic workflow if you don't know how to instruct an AI what to do and when and how. But what's the most interesting aspect of what we're finding is that everyone is becoming a programmer. Everyone is becoming a coder, not by mastering Python or any other computer language, but rather to write down the instructions in English. We call it natural language programming. We call it narrative coding and workflow engineering. So instead of it being daunting, coding with AI, it becomes a natural extension of how you critically think about the problem that needs to be solved and the work that needs to be done. And again, that is another thread throughout the entire masterclass, is we want people to walk away after 2 days understanding what agents do, how workflows are put together, and that they feel confident that they can start building those themselves for their jobs.
Let me just add to that. It was Adrian who asked this, right? So RJ and I are very complementary in this space. I've been a vibe coder since about October last year, and as in working through the night, 2 hours sleep in the whole days of Replit, when it really was very difficult to deal with, and you just touched one button and your entire code base fragmented in seconds, right through to where we are now, which is literally miraculous. I'm building absolutely mind-blowingly powerful apps extremely quickly, and I'm very passionate about vibe coding. I really am. But RJ's comes from a very different side. He doesn't vibe code at all. He's been using agentic IDE environments like VS Code or Cursor or whatever the other ones are, to actually run these agent crews doing human work, knowledge work, the way he just described. And we bring more of that emphasis to the course because that's what 90% of the audience is interested in. You and I could have, if you join our course, you and I could have separate chats over dinner, whatever, during breaks around vibe coding. I'm very passionate about it. But for the course itself, it's much more around teaching people the days of coding belonging just to IT people is gone. And it's now available in the corporate workspace. And what's fascinating is we've always had these two different pools. You've had your consultants who understand business. They know what needs to be done. They've got all these ideas, methodologies, frameworks, everything else. But at some stage, someone needed to write code and the entire project would come to a screaming halt while they find people to get it done, pay a lot of money. It becomes a real impediment. And then you've got the coding guys who for years and years have been able to build very, very powerful stuff, but they didn't know what what to build and where they should be focusing and what they should be doing. Suddenly this has merged. And what we have, and I don't want to mention client names online, but we've been working with extremely large IT organizations and guiding them on the internal people, saying, I no longer want to wait for somebody to code this capability for me. I am going to build my own mini app here and now. Started off in the early days as what's called an artifact in Claude within Claude.ai, but has now progressed into much more robust platforms such as using Lovable or programming directly in VS Code. There are many other ways, but it now becomes truly possible for a normal executive who has zero coding experience to say, I'm really irritated with the fact that I have to do this junk every day and I don't want to do it like that. And next thing, they create themselves a little program. And then they're going around telling everybody in the organization about it and demonstrating it. It gets quite funny.
Yeah, I've found that within my own workflows as well. But I share your dream, Adrian. I just want to create agents that can do like mundane things 24/7 in the background. Will a masterclass allow me to do that?
You're getting the foundation, but what we're working on with Daily Maverick is a third day that will be added onto the first 2 days. Because the first 2 days are so overwhelming. And in order to really create good agentic workflows, you need to master some of the fundamentals of AI. So we're spending 75% of the masterclass on mastery of the fundamentals. And then in the last part of the masterclass, we will lay the foundation for agentic workflows. But in order to build the workflows that Adrian has in mind, the ones that can run 24/7, you would most likely have to attend a third day of this masterclass, which we're putting together now.
And then just in
I
closing,
really want to manage expectations. Yeah.
Without giving away too much, obviously, because it's your business. This 90-day framework style structured roadmap. There was some chatter as well about like what exactly is it? Can you give a little breakdown? But like, how does it help a pragmatist organization adopt the habits of like a trailblazing organization? Effectively, like teaching old dogs new tricks.
Basically, it's getting stuck in and having the discipline to execute a plan. So what the plan does, it breaks out in 3 sessions. So the first month of your 90-day work plan, you're going to take one task of your job that you're going to automate with AI. That's the focus, because that's how you know that drudgery part of your task in and out. So you can assess very, very quickly if the AI does it at the level that you require. So that's the focus of the first month of the 90-day plan. The second month, you start to bring in additional parts of your work and learn how to use that. But also you start to educate your colleagues, because we're finding that once you have to explain something to someone else, you really need to understand it yourself very, very well. I mean, this is simply why we're doing the masterclass. We learn a lot from that as well, interacting with a lot of people from different industries. And then in the last month, you basically try and get the maximum amount of your tasks into an AI format. And I saw the question, are there standard examples? No, they're not standard examples, because the beauty of how we bring AI to the people is that we say it needs to fit on your personal work style, your interests, what you're good at, what you like doing, etc. And the minute it becomes a top-down exercise, it's something that you regret, because you then feel you become a slave to the technology, as opposed to what we teach people, to become a master of the technology. So the 90-day plan is different from everyone, but what we do is we discuss them in the team during the masterclass, so that you can ask feedback from other people how they would approach mastering AI in their work. And that's also really, really important and valuable, is that you get feedback from peers that have gone through the same journey of discovery through that 2 days time period.
There was also a question about why Copilot was not added into your model list.
I will definitely leave that for RJ to talk to.
Copilot, first of all, is using ChatGPT, the technology from OpenAI, and increasingly the one from Claude as well. But unfortunately, I could say this because I'm still paying for Microsoft, and I used to work extensively with Microsoft. Unfortunately, they're not the state of the art. That's one. And secondly, their model is to create a very complex system for large organizations. And that's not suitable to entrepreneurial individuals in larger organizations or in smaller organizations. So we've picked the technologies that suit that environment the best.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Copilot, if you start doing your research online, looking at how the experts in the field rate Copilot, it definitely is not one of the top players.
Yeah, I think Microsoft was kind of hamstrung by its early successes in the low code, no code kind of space, on business, what's it, Business Insights on BI platform, Power Platform, all those things. Because I was having a conversation with an accounts person over the holidays, and she was saying about, like, for one of their vendors, they need to, or at least one of their customers, they need to replicate like three different, they need like the Excel invoice and then like the PDF and something else. And like they work on Business Central on BC, which is a Microsoft adjacent product. And then I was like, you should be able to just punch something into Copilot to like make a little automation through that. So do you think Microsoft was maybe a victim of its own early success?
I'm not so sure if it was the early success, but remember how some people always talk about SAP? In order for SAP to work, you need to think like a German. I think the same is happening with Microsoft in that it does not tailor itself to the way you work or want to work. It rather pushes the entire organization of a diversity of individuals with different backgrounds, different skills, different preferences to work the way that Microsoft wants you to work. And again, that's not the philosophy that we have. And it's hard for us to teach something that we don't believe in. We think that other technologies are much better, but I still want to emphasize is that we focus on skills that you can use across different platforms. So people could take the learnings from 2 days of the masterclass and apply them effectively in a Copilot environment.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, like the prompting is a skill that you can build up. Like I'm helping a lot of, like at Daily Maverick, we are using, we have license to play. Obviously, it should not affect our core business of providing truthful, factual information to our audience. But outside of that, like putting all the trimmings on it and to maybe optimize certain parts of our day, all the slog work, maybe speed up our delivery to market. We do use certain, we are encouraged to use AI tools, and you find a lot of value in it. And as people who were naysayers start to adopt things and learn about like prompting and like, oh no, you can actually make that better if you just hand in all that data and then your prompt, whatever you were asking me to help you to do, to just put that inside, like whichever model that you choose, and then you get like 98% of the way there, which is a great starting point. And it's that value unlock that I'm also trying to maybe teach to my kids, although I'm not willing to give them the keys to a AI model, because I still want them to read and be curious and not have like actively seek out information, instead of just having it like served to them through simple questions. So with the Microsoft thing, I think in the enterprise setting, they work well because there are entrenched like workflows there that have really been optimized. And you guys obviously have a focus on more entrepreneurial startup kind of spaces, yeah?
We do work with organizations that have Copilot where we help them make Copilot more effectively. So we are, as I said, vendor agnostic. And I want to address that the question from Catherine.
Yeah.
Will the skills be applicable in other tools? You must think along the following lines. Let's say we teach creative writing, and then if you become a good creative writer, you can do it with a pen and paper, a pencil and paper. You can use Word on a Mac, or you can use another program on a PC. It doesn't matter. It's the skill that matters, and that's what we're teaching. We're not teaching you how to use Claude versus Copilot. We teach you how to use an LLM, a frontier model, or an agent, or create them, irrespective of the technology that you want to use for it. That's a very, very key point that I want to get across.
One of the things we do, Kath, and we do kind of encourage people on the course to pick one model and sign up for a monthly $20 at least. Just because you do get benefits out of that. We discourage signing up for annual models because this is a horse race. And Gemini 3 months ago, we were laughing at. We thought Google had lost the plot, they were never going to come back. And today, if you ask RJ and I think Gemini is actually our favorite horse right now, isn't it, RJ? Between that and Claude Code, we debate fairly daily. And what we do is we encourage people to use all the models in their free mode. When you run out of credits for the day, switch to the next one, run out of credits, switch to the next. And besides, you'll start learning to use different ones for different things. If you're doing large bodies of writing, synthesizing a document, rewriting it with nuances and insight and understanding, it's Claude all the way, Anthropic. There's no two ways about it. If you want structured thinking, helping you solve a problem, think through a situation, understand something you need to learn, OpenAI all the way, not even going to debate it. If you want something that's linked to the very latest, what is going on, the latest thinking, what's actually happening, Grok and Perplexity, no two ways about it. They just have access to all the very latest social media stuff that the others get gated from. So, but they all do everything. And when you're operating at a 80% level, they're much of a muchness. It's only when you start pushing for the last 10, 20%, you start having to pick the right horse. And as I said, that's going to change every month. So we really are technology agnostic. We encourage everybody, use all of them, just each month, pick the one that's going to get you $20.
Yeah, how are you guys handling the fallout from the Grok scandal of the last couple of weeks? Are you still kind of pushing Grok as a model?
Lindsey, we weren't making any porno images, so it doesn't matter. No, I think they allowed things to go unnecessarily far. And I think OpenAI have had similar discussions about allowing adult content. Look, I've got no problem with them. Instead of questioning my parenting style when I'm asking difficult questions about my daughter's upbringing and blocking me because they think I'm doing something dodgy, I always used to switch to Grok, and I still do, because it doesn't bring in those gates too early. But there are certain situations that sound dodgy and they're not. You're simply a parent managing a difficult dynamic in this country right now. But Grok, I think, let things go a little too far with undressing photos. That was silly.
But Lindsey, you must understand, this is not fallout. This is by design. This is how Elon Musk runs his business. This is how Richard Branson used the business. There's no bad PR, and I think we should start ignoring these stories, because the only thing that it does for Grok is that more people sign up for the service. The numbers bear it out. That's just how Elon Musk does marketing.
Indeed. It's not the way I would do marketing. It's not something that I personally condone.
But
Grok,
I mean,
like, yeah,
Grok as for where we should use it for is really a good model. It has access to Twitter, so it's very on the ball of what is the mood in the world right now in a particular. So we use it a lot to basically build for people daily intelligence tools. What is going on in my industry? What are competitors doing? Who is moving jobs, etc., etc. And that's where it's the best tool.
Yeah, like a social listening tool sort of thing.
Yeah.
No, I fully understand that. But just like in closing, LLMs, there's a lot of talk about we've reached kind of the limitation of what we can achieve with them. What are you guys seeing, if you have to gaze into a crystal ball and you have to say, is there another frontier that we're gonna breach beyond LLMs?
Increasingly, what you see is that people start focusing on world models. LLMs are based on text. And humanity is only, for a certain amount of time, I don't know what it is, 20,000 years, been running society in the back of the written word. But as long as we've been around, we've been able to see things and understand things by looking at them. So the next big development that you will see in artificial intelligence is world models. People that understand physics, that know how people move, how a ball will bounce, etc. But the current top technology, large language models, we have definitely not hit a wall. Every month there's new models that come out, new capabilities that surprise people. So you will see two parallel movements. LLMs will continue to develop. World models will come into play. They will converge at some point in time in super AI models. But what's happening is that it's going so fast, and we really encourage people to jump on the bandwagon now and acquire the skills so that they can grow with the models. If you wait another 1 or 2 years, it's going to be too difficult for you to catch up. Or it will be a day job, for a couple of months to actually acquire the skills that you need.
I definitely agree that everybody should be playing around with these things. They are part of our lives right now. And you can then trust in Daily Maverick to keep bringing you all of the news around these things and how it's developing within the South African context. And I thank you very much for joining us. I thank you, Chris and RJ. I am Lindsey Schutters, business journalist at Daily Maverick. And I will see you in the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.